What's poppin', guys? It's Padrino Go back with another YouTube video. I know it's been a while since I posted. I appreciate you guys for sticking with me, being patient with me. But today we got DC back. You guys know I gotta, when I'm facilitating the return, DC gotta be there. DC, say what's poppin' to the homies, bro.
What up, everybody?
Yeah, W. So today we're going to be talking about Guy versus Kakashi. Now, if you guys are familiar with my TikTok, which I think you probably are, you know that I've talked about this topic quite a few times at a pretty decent length as well. The reason why I kind of wanted to address it on a YouTube format is because a 3-minute TikTok video doesn't really let me talk about everything I want to. Plus, I feel like if I'm able to talk about everything that I want to, I'll finally be able to put the rest of the thing to bed as to who is more powerful between the two, because Guy and Kakashi individually have quite a lot of stands, and if you say one or the other wins, the other fandom just starts attacking you and all that good stuff. So I'm going to try to provide, me and DC are going to provide as much proof for our claims as we possibly can, as we usually do, and then we're going to put this thing to bed. Something that I wanted to preface before starting this video is that both of these characters, DMS Kakashi and AK's Guy, are pretty much god tiers. This is where the power cliffing really happens, because if we look at characters like Casey and Minato and Hashirama, those are absolutely powerful characters, but they don't really stand up to the likes of Guy very well. Guy just has ridiculous feats, so anybody past Guy, anybody past this point just contributes to more power cliffing. We even see characters like Ten Tails or Obito, who power clip the series to a pretty decent extent. I mean, we are talking about a guy who was just bullying all of the Hokages, and the Hokages were just widely renowned as the most powerful people in the verse up until that point. And then we had Obito was able to do some really cool stuff to them. And then we go into Guy, who is even more powerful than him. A lot of people disagree with that. I don't know if I'm gonna have to make a video on that. Let me know if I do. But actually, some of the arguments that we'll be talking about here will probably make you guys change your mind if you do think that. But I actually want DC to talk about Obito and Madara and Guy and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna pass the mic to him.
So the first thing that we need to reference when talking about Madara in specific in his Ten Tails form is his comparison to the predecessor of it. Now, Obito, when he first came out, we see that he had two forms. He was unstable, and then he gained some stability with it because the Ten Tails kind of took over his mind a little bit, and then he gained stability and he got a lot stronger. Now, we have a statement on the back of volume 69 that says that a live Madara who got Rene Rebirth is actually stronger than Obito, who we had seen in Ten Tails at that point, which is absolutely insane. Madara, who is alive, is stronger than the Ten Tails form previously. Absolutely insane. And we saw what a massive amp the Ten Tails has on a person. He goes and he gets a Ten Tails amp on top of the fact that he was already stronger than Jubito. So there's really no debate that Madara is an absolute powerhouse when we're talking about scaling in this series, because he was already stronger when he's alive, and then he gets that massive amp on top of it.
And the reason why we think it's important to establish how much more powerful Madara is than Ten Tails Obito is because, as we know, Guy fights Madara. Guy goes into the 8th gate specifically to fight Madara. So again, we're just trying to establish the precedent of the war has major power cliffing, and Guy benefits from that really hard.
Okay. So at the very start, we see Guy going into 8 gates. Rock Lee was already in 6 gates. Nobody there is any comparison to Madara. Guy immediately goes into 8 gates using even an elephant and absolutely pummels Madara into the ground. His body's literally in shambles. Not only did he get blitzed, but he got put into actual pieces hundreds of meters deep in the ground from that one attack. But what is shown pretty much on the second panel after we see Guy do that is that he already starts aching. He's already dying. We can see a throb happen. He says, he gets upset over the fact that he's pretty much already dying from the 8 gates, which is tough for him. But he's not done there, because after that he goes in and he blitzes Madara probably 10 times. Madara will put up his TSO to attempt to block from it, but he just literally cannot. Guy is overwhelming Madara in speed by a large margin. He attempts to go inside of his little bubble, and that's when Minato gets teleported in and takes him out. And Guy, with his striking strength alone, with just his fist, is capable of harming Madara. This is when Guy actually starts to die, though. He's bleeding, he's sweating, and then he goes into Night Guy. Night Guy is pretty much his final attack, where he sends him flying. Right after that attack, Madara is on the ground next to the God Tree, his face is regenerating. What's shown right after this, though, is that Madara gets up and he absorbs the God Tree. So Madara, who was already in Ten Tails form, wasn't even in a completed Ten Tails form because he didn't have the God Tree yet. So he was just one-eyed Madara. And then after this, he becomes one-eyed God Tree absorbed Madara, which is even stronger than before. So we can see how Guy was fighting a very, very strong character, as I was describing before, being so much stronger than Jubito, but he wasn't even fighting the pinnacle of Madara, as he had one Rinnegan and he hadn't absorbed the God Tree yet.
So I think DC put that beautifully. There's something that I wanted to add, because there are some definitely Guy deniers out there who would be like, oh, but Madara wasn't trying. He was like laughing the like entire time, whatever. So like the whole problem with that is that if Madara is like looking for a challenge, and if Madara is looking to challenge himself, and then he declares Guy as a challenge, then at bare minimum he's implying that there's some relativity there, right? Because this is somebody who can challenge him, and he finds challenges fun. So I think that like if you just look into the statement for like 1 to 3 seconds, you will see that, oh, Madara is trying. Now, is like Madara going all out? Is he like trying to like absolutely dominate Guy? No, but he is definitely trying to a certain extent. And I think it's plenty to establish like some sort of relativity there. Like as DC said before, Madara was just getting blitzed. If like Madara like really wanted to try to sustain himself from like taking damage, and if he wasn't really enjoying the fight, and if it was boring to him, he would have just like stayed in that ball and just waited for Guy to die, or just not really engage Guy. He could have just simply left, but he chose to entertain Guy because Guy was the only person there that could give him a challenge. That was a challenge to Madara, and we see Madara goes to like kind of try to defend against Night Guy, but Guy starts warping space, and then he's like, what the hell am I supposed to do against this? And then Guy does a lot of damage. So like if we say, oh, like Madara wasn't like trying, whatever, Guy was still doing significant damage. That's plenty for relativity.
And we have like the whole scenario that Guy is beating up on Madara, but Madara also knows that he can regenerate. So if Madara wasn't able to regenerate, then he would be taking the fight differently than if he was. So he's able to regenerate from attacks that would normally kill him. We saw him in literal pieces. He was still getting blitzed by Guy, but he knew for a fact that regardless of physical disparity, he could still come back. So he would stay in that fight and keep fighting even though he is getting blitzed. So a Madara who cannot regenerate has a different mindset than a Madara who can regenerate, because physical disparity doesn't really mean much when you can just come right back.
Yeah, and like even Madara's near immortality was put to its limits by Guy too. Exactly. Madara was like as DC said, he was probably pretty comfortable in the fact that he could not die, but yet Night Guy, he's like, yo, you almost killed me, you bastard. So I really did push Madara to his limits. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to like, unveil any attack, or maybe attack was like a little bit stronger, then he would have been victor. But unfortunately for Guy, that isn't really the case. Okay, so now that we've talked about Guy, I think that we did Guy like a pretty good service. We talked about him to lengths. We think that he's super impressive. Now it's time to talk about DMS Kakashi. So earlier on in the video, DC was establishing the fact that Guy did not really take on like a full powered Madara. As we know, Madara only had one eye. He did not have both of them. At that point, he did not absorb the God Tree yet, which is seen to be a amp to him. So that was definitely a weaker Madara. Still absurdly powerful. Do not get me wrong in the absolute slightest. But that Madara definitely had some room to grow. And so after that growth happens, Naruto and Sasuke start fighting him, whatever. And then as we know, Kage emerges. So now the first thing that happens when Kage emerges is we get like a statement, a super huge implication from Sasuke that Kage has already like far surpassed it, right? He's like, this chakra, it's far greater than Madara's. He's like, I can't believe such a person existed, right? So like he like has this disbelief that like this is like even a real person, that like this is even a real thing that like they need to fight. That like disbelief wasn't there when it came to Madara. As a matter of fact, like Sasuke was kind of like trash talking Madara. They were both pretty confident in their ability to defeat Madara at that certain point in time. But when it came to like Kage, there was definitely some like substantial worrying there. They were like, okay, this is definitely a problem here. And there's also something like, I tackle this every time, but people still bring it up. They're like, oh, well, like more chakra doesn't equal more power. And like, while that is definitely true, he is talking about greater. So he's talking about the quality of it. And then we have that Fugaku scan, which he's going to put up right now, where greater chakra or like more potent chakra will equal more strength. So she's gaining access to more potent chakra, not just more chakra. And that's where the strength increase really comes from. Now let's start talking about DMS Kakashi and how he would scale to Kaguya, which is during their fight. So the first impressive showcase that we see from DMS Kakashi is that he's actually able to save Sakura from Kaguya's chakra arms, well, like her Bijou, that rabbit form she has. I don't even know what to call it. The like rabbit goddess form. Let's just call it that. When she's in that form, she is trying to attack Sakura, and then like she gets really close to, like we see like the looming shadow that's like over Sakura's head, and then Kakashi just goes in, swoop, Like literally right before she touches Sakura, Kakashi with his Susanoo swoops her up, boom. That like right there is like already a pretty impressive speed feat, but he actually has more. We then move on to things like Kamui Shuriken, where he throws the like Kamui Shuriken, and then he's able to chop off some of that rabbit goddess's arms. Now, what's very impressive about this is that the AoE of this move is pretty ridiculous, because these like arms aren't like just like some like, oh, you know, little like small thing, regular arms. No, like these are ridiculously large size arms that are like easily able to like engulf people like Naruto, Sasuke. They are a lot bigger. The Kamui Shurikens are able to extend and suck at a range beyond what those arms are too. So he has a pretty good like AoE move. Kamui Shuriken, like he can just transport things in the Kamui dimension, whatever it touches. Like that's actually a pretty balanced ability in my opinion. Something to be noted as well is that after she comes out of this like rabbit goddess form, we actually have a statement from Zetsu saying that Mother has gained more power. Both her might and speed are now exponentially greater. So on top of Kage already being stronger than Madara, she gets another amp on top of that. And then we get the infamous DMS Kakashi blitzing her when he does the Kamui Raikiri. So now a lot of people's debunk to that would be, oh, well, like Kakashi had gravity on his side, so he didn't actually blitz her. My issue with that is that the increase in speed that like Kakashi would get from just going down would kind of be negligible. Like it wouldn't really mean too much. But even if you don't want to say that like Kakashi blitzed her, which is completely fine, I think that I've established some sort of like relativity so far when we're talking about like this Susanoo and then all that stuff. And then on top of that, we also have like situations where like Kage is trying to attack Naruto. So now this is when Naruto and Sasuke are both like closing in and they're trying to touch Kage. And then like we have that point where Kage goes and then she creates that portal and then she tries to put the bone ash jutsu through it. And then as she's trying to shoot it through, before she's able to get it off, not only is Kakashi able to warp it, but Kakashi's also able to warp it before Naruto touches Kage. So at bare minimum, you can say that like he's able to perceive things and he's able to use Kamui at a speed greater than what Naruto is able to move at, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, like DMS Kakashi just has loads of feats despite him not really being in the manga that long. Like the DMS transformation is not long, but the amount of stuff that he's able to contribute to the fight is pretty insane. So Kakashi is an absolute demon. Now that we've established like how powerful Kakashi is, I think that we can go on to like who the winner is. There is something that I do want to address though. A lot of people will say that like, oh, well, like only has the DMS boost for like a couple of seconds or like a couple of minutes. They just pretty much just like make up time frames. Even if that's the case, honestly, Kakashi's feats are just so impressive that there's nothing to suggest that he wouldn't win the fight in whatever time frame you give him for what you make up for the DMS form. So I hope that goes without saying. I think Kakashi wins this one.
Yeah,
DC, what are your thoughts?
Time. Yeah, it's a big time. It shouldn't even really be that close, to be honest.
Yeah, like the fact that this is even like still discussed is like kind of crazy. But that's why I just wanted to make this video. I obviously had to bring DC on here, so we can just again put this thing to bed. Honestly, like unless if DC has anything else to add, like there's nothing I gotta add. Like
that's it, man. That's it.
Yeah, it's just pretty clear cut and simple. Guys, thank you so much. Make sure to follow DC's TikTok. I'm sure we're gonna put it up on the screen. Make sure to check out my TikTok if for some reason you aren't on my TikTok, my Twitch, and whatever. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys. You guys are incredible. I hope everybody watching this has a great day.
Peace out.